Hi, welcome to Exploring the Illusion of Free Will. My name is George Ortega, and I'm here with our very special guest, Nick Vale. Nick,
So happy to be here, George. Nice to see you again.
nice to see you. All right, this is episode 193. We've been at this for like
4 years.
Oh yeah, this show 4 years is excellent. And the title, what we're going to be exploring today is the title is No Free Will. Why is nobody getting this? Because I mean, it's not like,
my favorite topic, finally.
yeah, it's not that nobody's getting this, and some people are getting this. The internet is getting this. Just it hasn't gotten to network TV. It hasn't gotten into the movies, and not nearly enough people are writing books about this and stuff. All right, so let's get right. Should we go through what we mean by free will and all that first?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Basically, we're refuting this idea of free will. People believe that what we do is up to us. When you think about it, think this through. I think you understand that everything has a cause, right? If everything has a cause, then every thought that you have is a cause, right? And then there's going to be a cause to the cause of every thought that you have, right? And then there's going to be a cause to the cause of every thought that you have. And there's going to be a cause to that, and a cause to that, and a cause. And these causes always go back in time, right? You're not going to have a cause go after what its cause is, right? So if you follow this chain of cause and effect, back, cause by cause by cause, it spans back, regresses back to before you were born, it regresses back to before the planet was created, all the way back to the Big Bang and whatever came after that. So that's when, so free will is saying that that this causality doesn't exist, and that's why we're here to demonstrate that no, we don't have a free will. Everything is determined by this causality. Nick, explain again in a different words what people mean by free will and why it's completely impossible.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for having me, and also this show finally is a very good topic. Why is nobody getting it? So people don't want to feel like robots or puppets, and they're not getting it because it will depress them to think that there's no free will, that they don't exist, and you're stripping them of their personal accomplishments, and they find it psychologically damaging and depressing to believe that we're correct. What was your question? See, if I had a free will, would have...
Right. Well, just explain
free
to
will.
them.
Everything is a conditioned response based on one's personal history, and I'm fine with it. I'm at peace with it. We're just a witness to our life, and free will would mean that you weren't a slave to your personal, to your conditioning based on your personal history, going towards pleasure and away from pain. You would be a free agent, consciously deciding a first choice cause of what you would prefer to do. There would be no background history to your life. It would be like a clean slate every second.
There you go.
And your life would be up to you. So obviously, if there's no free will, your life isn't up to you, and that's why people can't get it. It's very upsetting that we come to Earth. We've learned languages, we've learned art, we've learned symphonies, we've learned beautiful music, beautiful paintings, philosophy, politics, mental health, all kinds of medicine, heart transplant, and we cannot discuss publicly if we have free will. I mean, don't get me started. I'm getting upset just thinking about it.
Well, you want to know something.
We owe it to ourselves. It's a duty, an obligation, and a burden for human beings, especially in this country, where we're the number one country in everything, that we can't have an honest discussion in public about, sorry to interrupt you, about whether or not human beings have free will. I don't know what the big deal is.
Well, here's the thing. And
Do you?
You're right. No, but most technically, the title of this show, Why is Nobody Getting This? We should have maybe titled this, Why Isn't God Allowing This to Get This? Because it's not up to us. If God, why does God put us on this planet, right? And completely delude us in terms of having us think that stuff is up to us when absolutely nothing is. But all right, no, that's a question we can't really answer because who knows. But so in terms of people, all right, there's several reasons. One, you said that it makes people feel bad. We have these egos. Now, I think eventually we're going to move away, become less conceited and less arrogant and boastful and competitive and stuff. I think that'll eventually happen. But people like to take credit for the good that they do. That's one reason. That's one reason. So if people understand that nobody has a free will, all of a sudden, you do good, right? Feel grateful. Feel grateful that God has allowed you to do good, but don't credit yourself because that's insane. That's delusional. Nick, why else? What else prevents people from getting that absolutely nothing is up to them?
I just want to focus on something else. So, I mean, it's the same thing. What does the word duty, burden, and obligation mean to you? Like, if you could define those words, we might get somewhere.
Well, duty, these are moral imperatives for me. In other words, like, we understand that to the extent that we are good, then we create more happiness for ourselves and other people.
What I'm saying is, we're human beings. We can have language. Every country where people talk to each other. 99% of the world probably has I don't know how the third world is, but I'm sure philosophy is discussed at cafes, even in the Central African Republic. I mean, even the poorest countries in Papua New Guinea, I'm sure there's some discussion of philosophy. So now that we're advanced and we're in the richest country of the world, America, supposedly, we lead the world in everything, and you and I live in New York, so we're like the number, don't you think it's an obligation, a duty, and a burden of us to discuss in public if we have free will? I mean, it's almost like it's a duty at this stage. How can we consider ourselves the leading authorities? It's embarrassing that we're in America, land of the free, but yet we all know it's, not referring to free will, but yet everyone confuses that.
You're right. I mean, there's a French phrase called noblesse oblige, which is translated as obligations of the noble, but more connotatively, it's like when you're in a position of privilege, like we are here in the United States, we're leading the entire world in so much. It's our duty, it's our obligation to lead the world in the best way, in the way that makes most sense.
That you just worded for the first time we've discussed this on camera. Yes, I'm saying that. We're the world's leader in military, in food and technology, in wealth. We should not have a TV show coming out of like Denmark or Sweden saying there's no free will. We should be obligated as Americans to lead the world in honesty. At least debate it, So this show is called Why Is No One Getting It? Because no one in America feels it's really our duty to as a leader in thought, doesn't seem to be, or a leader in philosophy doesn't seem to come into the equation. When you look at the debates, we want to be a leader in peace, a leader in oil, solving the Middle East peace. We want to be the world's policeman, but we don't want to be the world's number one leader in reality.
Okay, all right. Now I want to. So that's kind of like societal.
That bothers me.
You're right. Yeah, but let's shift to kind of like why individuals can't admit to themselves, to each other, that we don't have a free will. I think it goes back to when we were kids, when we were like, I don't know, when they start indoctrinating kids with this religious stuff. I mean, I'm not saying it's all bad. A lot of it is good. I believe in God, whatever. But when they're, who knows, 4, 5, 6 years old, somebody says, listen, we've got this collection of beliefs like God and all this stuff, like free will. And see, the thing is, like, if you don't believe some of this stuff, if you don't accept what we're telling you, then when you die, you might suffer for the rest of eternity. You might go directly to hell and never leave. Yet they tell little kids that, so like, they're traumatizing little kids, right? So then when little kids become adults, like maybe even 15, 25, 35, and they're asked to think about this free will question, then they're thinking back to when they were 4 or 5 years old, what they were told them. So it probably hijacks their entire reasoning, this fear of going to hell, if they admit to themselves and to each other that we don't have a free will. That's got to be part of it, I think.
So today's topic is, why is nobody getting this?
Yeah.
This is our first time discussing this really on camera. So I think it's the politicians, okay, so there's two real choices that we can learn about this. Philosophy class in college, and I believe they're not refuting it at that level, because if a parent is sending their child to college and they come back from spring break and say, my college professor said there's no free will, that could greatly upset the parents. They'll write letters, and it'll be just too, and the college professor might worry he's going to lose his job for spreading communism. The parents are paying $40,000 a year. So I think our first line of defense is philosophy class in college with professors refuting it. And I don't see that happening because of economic, upsetting the apple cart too much. The second chance we have is religious leaders, but they're too overboard with nutty, heaven and hell, so they're never going to do it. So the third chance we have is politics. Now, why is it in a political debate that we discuss guns, abortion, gay rights, immigration, everything you can think of? But I think political debates are where this discourse could matter.
Nick, I couldn't agree with you more.
So people don't get it because they don't hear our political leaders discussing it.
I couldn't agree with you more. And so, like, we're talking there's a presidential election in 2016. None of the candidates are courageous enough, have the integrity, have the morality to say the truth about this. It's
but isn't it the moderator's duty to ask the question?
Yes, it is. You're right. The media is, but I think it's more. In other words, like with climate change, some candidates understand that it's happening. So even though the moderator may not ask the question, they'll still get it in there because it's important to know. So these politicians, if they really had integrity, really had character, really cared about the lives of people, they would be talking about this, because the free will belief, we've done so many shows about this, it's so harmful. It's harmful to you and your friends, your family. It's harmful to us as individuals. We blame ourselves for things that are completely not up to us.
So to answer your question, which you've asked me before, why is nobody getting this? Our political leaders don't discuss it. That's why nobody's getting it. So they all go to their religious leaders who assume there's free will, right? It's not refuted by philosophy class or any educators. The mental health system doesn't touch it because, most people don't even go to therapists. Even if every therapist started saying there's no free will, they're not really qualified. It's really got to come from the politicians who are actually leaders. They always say philosophers are kings. Remember they said that in the philosopher, I don't know, ancient Greece or somewhere. So you need the politicians to bring it up. And I guess the moderators have to ask the question. Mr. Trump, what do you think, Mr. Carson or whoever, do you believe in free will? Why or why not? Let them answer it.
That'd be a great question for Trump. Trump,
or the Democratic debate.
You're worth about $10 billion. Now, did you, of your free will, earn that money, or was it that you're lucky that you had certain circumstances, certain things happened that you weren't in control of that led to your having that money? That'd be a perfect.
Yeah, but that question will be laughed out of the debate because Trump will say, "What kind of question is that?" Of course, I had many different choices I made. I went to Wharton, I went to Fordham, I changed schools. I decided to go to Atlantic City. I could have gone to Malibu. I mean, he'll just come up with every kind of thing that he did right. The whole debate thing is about who did what right. How smart they are.
Well, then, all right. So
I was smart enough to go into Atlantic City. I was smart enough to get out of Atlantic City. It's because of how smart I am. What he doesn't understand is he didn't get to choose how intelligent he is.
Right.
That's important.
So that's the follow-up question. So Trump says that. The
how smart and what a genius he is.
Yeah. So Trump, you're telling me that you created your brain and you gave yourself that intelligence. So you're basically your God.
So that's why nobody gets it, because that question that you just said, that follow-up, is never uttered.
Right,
because the whole implication of debates is who's smarter, who's better for the job, who's done. It's all about your record. If you the whole thing is free will rich. It's all about free will. Who I could have. So Trump's, saying you did this, I did that, and Hillary Clinton saying I did, but they should be, called out on the fact that they're not doing anything. They're just
absolutely.
Lucky.
Yeah. Now Obama came close to this back in 2012, maybe. He said it was a speech in Virginia. He said, "You didn't build this bridge." I don't know what it was, but basically he was saying that we all built this bridge. When you build a bridge, you've got engineers, you've got funders, you've got workmen, you've got construction people, you got all the whenever something happens, it's not one individual. One individual is supported by so many people, and that's another way of understanding we don't have free will. But like you're saying, the moderators, the media should understand this. They should understand that this is not a moot question. This is not insignificant. This goes to the very, very essence of our quality of life. We overcome this belief in free will, guarantee you it's a new world, and a much, much more wonderful new world.
Okay, but if the politician gets the question, either laughs it off or says that's crazy, but say a politician didn't, said that's a wonderful question, Anderson Cooper or Don Lemon or whoever, Dana Bash. That's a great question. I'm glad you finally. No, I do not believe in free will. I believe it's all cause and effect, and nothing is up to anybody, and I just want the truth. Okay, then the next question could be, well, if nothing's up to anybody, then should we all get paid the same salary? And that's going to cause a big, problem, so they avoid it.
I know,
they don't know that implication.
Yeah, all right, so how do we answer that? Well, for example,
sounds like communism.
No, but let's say we all overcome this belief in free will. We still have to regulate behavior. We still need our rules and laws. Why? Because we don't have a free will. We are hardwired to seek pleasure, to avoid pain. We respond to reward and punishments. So in other words, a lot of us don't do certain things that are wrong because we know that if we got caught, we would be punished. We might be sent to jail or fined or something. So like, take that principle, right? And then apply it to economics. So in other words, if you do something really wrong, you're going to be punished. If you do something really good, yes, we know you don't have a free will, but you'll be rewarded. For example, a doctor goes to 12 years of med school. Yeah, it makes sense to pay him a bit more than the rest of us.
But you asked me the question, the theme of today's show is why are people not getting it? I've theorized that it's not brought up by politicians, and the reason why, and you're saying the implication of that, it wouldn't be that great a difference. It would just be an honest answer that there's still cause and effect, and there's still conditioning, and we would not all get paid the same amount because of what you just said, rewards and...
Well, here's the thing. Like, they did an experiment. They asked people who believe in free will and people who don't the same question. A person's committed a certain crime. How much time should they spend in prison? The people who believed in free will doubled the time that they thought the person should be in free will. In other words, when the people thought that they didn't have free will, they have that time. So apply that to economics. So fine, you don't have people making $1 billion a year. They maybe make 100 million, or they shouldn't even make that much actually, really. So it's not like we don't reward people, but we don't reward people exorbitantly, just like we wouldn't punish people exorbitantly.
The other night, this guy in the Mets hit all these home runs, and they interviewed him and said, because he never hit home runs before. This guy, Daniel Murphy, and they asked him, how are you doing? He said, I don't know.
Wow.
That was like, I don't know how I'm doing. It's just starting to happen. So that's kind of a hint there that, if he doesn't know,
wow.
He doesn't know what he's doing right now. He just got hot, but.
That's a perfect refutation of free will. If people knew how to hit home runs all the time, why don't you? Because you can't control how your muscles.
He doesn't even know what he's doing right this time around.
Exactly.
So anyway, to answer your question, the politicians, it has to start with them in a debate during the primary season. The question should be asked, and then the implications would be no, not everyone does get paid the same because of what you said. There's still rewards and punishments that need to be, what did you say? If a person goes to med school for 12 years, I think they should be paid a bit more than somebody who just goes to school for 2 years. Even if it wasn't up to them.
Yeah, because they're still doing a lot more work. 12 years of med school, that's really grueling. God.
Yeah, but if there's no free will, they're not really doing anything. They're not doing
it's not up to them, but, it's like...
So they're just lucky if they could do it.
Right, and with our criminal justice system. So, right, we may have to separate people who do things wrong, but because they don't have free will, we should punish them as little as is necessary. We shouldn't punish them any more than is necessary to protect society and stuff.
So how would a politician answer that follow-up? Mr. Trump, if there's no free will, or Mr. Ortega, then how are we supposed to run our society, economically?
Well, if I was a politician, I would say, well, we've got a model, we've got the mental health system. In psychiatry, people are not blamed for having this diagnosis or this condition or this symptom, but they're not given a free pass to do whatever they want. So if it works for the mental health system, it can work, because everybody's crazy with this free will belief anyhow. So basically, if I was a politician, politicians do this all the time, they'll segue to another kind of like a point. If I was a politician, I'd say, listen, let's focus on the world we have now. We're moving into climate change. These next decades are going to be challenging beyond World War II, beyond World War I, beyond anything we can imagine. And if we go into these decades, believe when we have free will, I guarantee everybody's going to be at each other. There's going to be, wars. There's going to be so much like conflict. If we overcome this, we will move into the future peacefully and united. That's what I'd say.
So my theory is the reason why this is never brought up, and nobody's getting it, is because politicians don't discuss it, and politicians don't want to discuss it because they're afraid of the implications of, everybody claiming that they should get paid the same. So
all right.
Nobody will admit to the fact there's no free will because it'll open up a Pandora's box of other things. And it's a shame because you and I know there is no free will, and we can't discuss it publicly because, it becomes too big an ordeal to discuss it.
All right, let's go to a different line of reasoning here because, like, that's, these are pragmatic political reasons why people don't want to admit it, talk about it. But then I think there's a more fundamental reason. When people go to school, when we went to school, we were taught how to read, write, do math, how to learn things and how to remember them and how to use them. But we weren't really taught how to think. And the reason I say this, because if we were actually taught how to think, and this applies to so many PhDs out there who should know better, especially philosophers, if people knew how to think, how to reason, logical, critical analysis, they would understand that this principle, this law of cause and effect makes free will completely impossible. And then some people who misunderstand quantum mechanics say, well, not everything is caused. And if they really knew how to think, they would understand very clearly that if you're positing, the insane notion that some things aren't caused because it is insane, then that doesn't help free will either, because a decision that's not caused cannot possibly be caused by a human being.
Okay, but the theme of the show is why is nobody getting it? So
we're not taught how to think. We're taught how to, we're basically brainwashed. We're programmed like computers. They want us to know this. They want us to know this.
Do you think this will start a cultural revolution unlike any other? I mean, if the question gets asked at a political debate and it comes out and the genie's out of the bottle, first of all, it'll never get put back in, right? It's going to be this huge thing that's coming. This huge, I can't even imagine what will happen when this comes out. Could you see free will states and no free will states? I mean, how bad could it get?
No, I can't.
Instead of blue and red.
All right, our revolutions, we're used to blood and warfare and stuff. This would be a quote unquote civil revolution. In other words, this would be a revolution on TV, debating with each other and all. We've had very, for example, abortion is a very, fierce debate and stuff. This would bring out our best. Because basically we wouldn't be arguing opinion, because so many things we argue about, who knows what's right. Some people think this is right, some people think something else right. But with this,
right,
it's not about opinion, it's about thinking, it's about fact. So it'd actually teach our country, all of us, how to think so much better.
Well, one implication could be that gay marriage would be instantly legalized in every state, because if there's no free will, why should they not be allowed to marry who they love? It's not a religious question anymore. If you're not freely choosing to be gay and you can't help it, of course you should be able to have gay marriage then. So there's no sin involved in it.
Oh, yeah.
You're not freely But I mean, I'm still worried about why I'm a little bit worried about you and I keep pushing this show. No one gets it. No one wants to get it. We're not getting anywhere. It is the truth. And it's very upsetting to me anyway. It makes me demotivated. And I think it's because the politicians don't want to discuss it. And like I said, they don't want to discuss it because the implications are too complicated. And unless we have an easy answer, on the other hand, can't we decide, as a politician, say, listen, there's no free will. We don't know the implications, but I'm going to use federal money to publicly fund a university in every state that's dedicated to solving, a think tank about what to do for future. But just get the ball rolling. We don't have to decide what we're going to start funding commissions like Planned Parenthood. It'll be Planned Free Will, no free willness,
Well,
and let them study it for another decade or two, but at least have those in,
Well, what would happen? This would happen in stages. In other words, let's say if next week everybody gets it, right? They get the logic, nobody has a free will. Then over the next year, 2, 3 years, people are going to be incorporating it into their lives. When they have an argument with a family member or their ex-wife or something, they're not going to be blaming them, and they're going to realize, whoa, now we can discuss these things without the animosity, without the vengeance and revenge and stuff. So first we'd see the benefits as individuals, and then you're right. Then we have the think tanks, the universities, the institutions, then determining how our society should change.
That's what I'm saying is step one is political debate. And for a politician to say, I'm acknowledging there's no free will. I don't know what to do about it. However, I'm going to have some taxpayer money fund, instead of Planned Parenthood, the free will, instead of NASA, which is a space agency, there'll be, the Illusion of Free Will Society, and the world's best graduates of Harvard, Yale, Princeton, will get to this think tank and it'll be a new kind of agency of the government to study the problem, it's a problem, and what to do. So nothing would happen overnight. There would just be a political debate and acknowledgement that some money is going into researching, and then there'll be like the Nobel Prize of illusion of free will category, and every year there'll be a guy who wins some way of, because you and I can't figure it out.
No, but I think we should.
Why should we?
We should win the first Nobel Prizes.
I know, but I'm saying, why should two guys at cable access figure out all the implications when that should be done by institutions that have thousands of the smartest minds in each state, maybe for the next 100,000, 100 to 1,000 to 2,000 years, and let them slowly but surely figure it out. That's what we should do.
Yeah, Darwin kind of like got us on the road to evolution, but then like other people like developed genetics and ways to use it. So it's the same thing with this. We're leading the world to a brand new consciousness. It's not completely up to us to solve the entire thing.
It could be a major at all the schools. It could be the illusion of free will. It could be a new subject, and there'll be papers and theses and think tanks and Senate hearings about what to do with it. Incorporate, like you said. Absolutely. Now that we know there's no free will, Yale study has suggested that heart surgeons that make over 300,000 should only be making 100,000. They're going to be taxed because it really wasn't up to them, and it's closer to the normal. There should be high taxes to make everyone kind of earn the same. That could work.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, like you're saying, we're not
Wall
going to
Street
solve
traders.
this.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, we're not going to solve this overnight. It's going to it's going to be like experimentation. This is a brand new human consciousness. They're going to have to come up with a new. We're called like Homo sapiens sapien. That's our technical name. We're going to have to come up with something like Homo sapien unfree will. I don't know how, but basically, like we would be a brand new species. We'd be like the human beings that would like follow from this revolution.
Homo sapiens determinism, something like that.
Something like
determinism. Homo sapiens determinism.
About 30 seconds left.
Right.
Again.
Anyway, it's got to start with politicians who agree that it's a problem, want to fund the problem slowly but surely. Take it away. That's my idea. It's got to come from politicians.
Absolutely. As John Searle said, I'm quoting, this is a bigger revolution than Einstein or Copernicus or Galileo or Newton or Darwin. It would alter our whole conception of our relation with the universe, end quote. That's how big this is. This is Nick Vale and George Ortega, and we're going to be back until you get this.
No one's getting it because it's not discussed in politics.
Yeah.
Bye.